Hello and welcome to HAZMAT, the only show that ranks films solely based on runtime.
Yeah, I think that's actually the most objectively fair way of doing it.
No opinions here, just facts. I'm Matt.
And I'm Harry.
And we are ranking the Harry Potter series, plus those other ones.
You know the ones. The Wizarding World Woovies.
Yes, we've got through them all now, so we're about to decide our best to worst. Now, how this is going to work is we've both compiled a separate best to worst list. So we're going to go through one by one and just compare where we've placed each film.
So if our lists end up being exactly the same, know that that's complete coincidence.
That is actually,
we just did this independently.
Yeah, that will be crazy because we have not seen each other's lists yet.
No.
Coming in at number 11 for me is Crimes of Grindelwald.
I don't think that's a shock to anyone.
Is that the same to you as well?
I've also gone Crimes of Grindelwald
Yeah.
for number 11. I don't think it's a shock to anyone. It's so disjointed.
It's the one of the three Fantastic Beasts films that I remember the least of. We literally watched it like recently and I can't remember half the stuff that happened in that thing.
Yeah, we kind of discussed a little bit about how with the latter two movies, the Fantastic Beasts tag is kind of just tacked on because it's no longer about the Fantastic Beasts. Crimes of Grindelwald isn't really about Grindelwald even, it's about Credence.
Yeah, exactly.
And then The Secrets of Dumbledore is about Grindelwald.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Crimes of Grindelwald suffers the most heavily from like middle movie syndrome.
Yeah, just dull, boring, not a lot to latch onto in that one. It suffers from like second in a trilogy syndrome as well, where
Yeah.
it's kind of a middling thing just trying to lead into like whatever the third one's going to be.
And then just none of the developments that are supposed to lead into that finale matter.
Yeah,
or
none
are
of it
really
really-
anything to care about.
None of it goes anywhere. Coming in at number 10,
Again, not a shocker.
not a big shock.
Secrets of Dumbledore.
Mine is the same. Secrets of Dumbledore.
Again, suffers from similar problems to Crimes of Grindelwald. It's just there's nothing to care about. There's nothing to really get behind any of these characters other than sort of
Yeah.
Newt and Jacob and their stories.
Yeah, there was a bit more to latch onto than Crimes of Grindelwald. I think the story was a bit more one thing. Like it was all about that deer or whatever the hell they called it.
Yes, yeah.
It felt like it was less all over the place, but still just unmemorable and dull.
And again, suffers from like the whole fact that they wanted to make more of those movies, so it has like just a non-conclusion.
It's another middle. Well, it would have been a middle film.
Yeah, like here you go, Grindelwald's
Filler
still
thing.
out large. But,
Yeah.
don't talk about that.
It tries to set up a bunch of stuff that is now probably not going to go anywhere.
Leading nicely into our number 9, just to round out the set.
Yeah.
I think we've both probably gone for the same movie. Fantastic Beasts.
Goblet
and
of
Where to
Fire. No,
Find-
Fantastic Beasts. Fantastic Beasts is
And Where to Find Them.
and where to find them as well.
It's the best of a bad bunch.
Yeah, it's the most unique of the three because it is just kind of about the beasts. Well, it's not only about the beasts, but it's got that element of it that's like
I feel like
it's a bit more fun in like we're discovering these new
Yeah.
characters and
that
stuff.
was kind of like they were more the main. For I would say the whole like the escape beasts and
Yeah.
everything. That was the A plot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the one where we kind of got the most out of just seeing all these new creatures and learning about them. And even though they're not developed as much as you'd like them to be, I think there's enough there to sort of say it's mid.
Mid.
It hits.
Yeah.
It's mid.
It is. It's just mid. So coming in at number 8, Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Ooh, okay, so we have a bit of variance.
Ooh, okay.
So why have you gone for Deathly Hallows Part 1?
Deathly Hallows Part 1 it's that thing of it's the least memorable of the series. It is obviously setting up to like the huge conclusion, but there's a lot of it that just seemed very fillery. It was mainly centered around like the trio, but they were just kind of fighting the whole time. They were just miserable in this like forest, and it just didn't have like the brightness and the variety of like the rest of the Harry Potter films.
My number 8, I've gone for Order of the Phoenix.
Okay, yeah.
Which we kind of said at the time, I think is the most unfocused one, I think. There's some cool stuff going on there, but I think it's the one that suffers the most from having just content from the book cut down, because I think it was the biggest book of the lot. So obviously there's so much content there that just gets left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
And what you're left with is just a sort of just untidy kind of rough version of the story.
Coming in at number 7 for me is Order of the Phoenix. It only just beats Deathly Hallows Part 1 for me. It's down there for the similar reasons as you said. I think it edges just above Deathly Hallows Part 1 for me because it's got like exciting stuff happening throughout it. It might be a bit disjointed, but there's a whole Umbridge debacle. We meet like Creature. There's like Fred and George at it again with the fireworks and pranks. Just things like that. There's lots of fun bits of it. Whereas for me, Deathly Hallows Part 1, it had less of that.
And of course, my number 7 is Deathly Hallows, but no, it's not. It's not. I'm lying. It's Half-Blood Prince. Is my number 7. I remember the first time seeing this, I was adamant this was the worst one. Going back and revisiting it, I think it just ekes out Order of the Phoenix.
Okay, yeah.
But again, so much cut out from the books that I think it kind of loses its identity a little bit. It focused on the wrong things. I didn't really care all that much about the whole Ron and Lavender little subplot about their romance, and like it gets a lot of screen time compared to like how much it probably should get.
Yeah.
It's just like a little side thing that happens, and it shouldn't be like
it's
such
like
a
the main
focus.
Romance of the movie.
It gets so much like attention drawn to it. But,
yeah.
There's some cool stuff in there. Like I like the Inferi, and I like kind of that we get the tease of them having sort of like a rift between them in their friendship, and there's no major plot developments really, no major deaths or anything that happen in it. That's why it's so low.
Yeah.
It's because there should have probably been like a really major death right at the end, but there just wasn't.
There wasn't really anything in that. It just sort of ends.
Just sort of ends, and that's it.
Harry and Dumbledore go to that cave, and then it sort
and then Harry and Dumbledore go to that cave, and then my mum presses eject on the DVD player and says, "That's it. That's the end."
Yeah, that's how it ends. Coming in at number 6 for me, maybe controversially, is Deathly Hallows Part 2.
I don't think all that controversial.
It's obviously the finale to the series, and it's great. There's a lot of stuff. It's mainly the Battle of Hogwarts is the majority of the runtime. But again, it suffers from like sort of the drabness, the drab atmosphere. It's obviously like a dark toned film.
It's supposed
it's the last
to be, yeah.
one.
But like at the same time, you don't have to be like make it visually dark to represent the dark tone.
Yeah, I think they could have like the battle could have been a bit brighter and have more life to it. Whereas a lot of it was just sort of like shadows or fire.
You think like a battle between wizards would just be like a fireworks,
colorful
show.
spells and stuff. Yeah. But obviously, it's the finale. We get like the wrap ups for every character. There's a lot of emotional storylines. There's a lot of major character deaths. Everything is getting wrapped up. It's a fitting end to the series, and we get like the 19 years later bit, which is always a very nice bit to see.
Number 6, Deathly Hallows Part 1. So a little bit higher than the other two. Some of the stuff you pointed out as negatives I kind of like. With the whole, it's them kind of being miserable, and it's them just kind of walking around aimlessly. I kind of like an aspect to that, in that throughout the other movies, they've kind of had it all their way, in a sense, in that like they've been successful up until this point, and they're finally tasting what it's like to fail at something and to not know what they're doing. And I think it's an interesting turn in that we see how they respond to that, and obviously there is a rift, there's a divide that opens up between them, because obviously they're not used to feeling that way. But yeah, like you said, it's still kind of, it drags its heels a little. A nice follow-up from that. Up to number 5, we got Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Okay, you've got them
so not too
paired
far
up together
from you.
on the list.
Like tonally, I think they're pretty similar. There's not a lot to divide them. I think Deathly Hallows Part 2 is the better movie, because I think it was really cool to see that Battle of Hogwarts kind of realized.
Yeah.
Like you said, it would have been nice if we could sit there in the cinema and actually have seen all of the detail put into it.
It was nice to hear it.
Yeah, I think a really, really good end to the series. Wraps everything up nicely. It's satisfying.
My number 5 is Half-Blood Prince. So like quite a bit higher up than where you've put Half-Blood Prince. Yeah. I enjoy Half-Blood Prince because I think it gets things back on track after the vagueness of Order of the Phoenix. And I think there's a lot of like different elements in it that I enjoy. There's the interesting concept of like the Half-Blood Prince book itself. There's like the whole Quidditch and the luck potion. There's just like lots of little concepts. It focuses a little bit again more after Order of the Phoenix, which is why like I just remember it more.
Yeah, I think that's you summed it up quite well. It's like it's small concepts that aren't like massively bearing on the plot.
Yeah, it feels like the kind of big stakes of like the last couple. The stakes have been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's kind of cool to see them throughout the film have to deal with smaller stuff again.
Take a breather.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's where we get into the meat of the matter. This is where we start hitting the top tier. I think some people might be upset that I put this at number 4.
Okay.
But I had to go with my instinct on it. So my number 4 is Prisoner of Azkaban, which we said when we watched it is a lot of people's favorites.
It's considered one of the best for a lot of people.
A lot of people really like Prisoner of Azkaban, and I do really like Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm saying this is number 4, but by no means is it bad.
Oh, I mean, yeah, we're in the good tiers. From the good to great tier now.
Prisoner of Azkaban, I think, is the one where the tonal shift really starts to happen, and I think it's trying to play that like middle road a bit too much, in that it's kind of halfway between the darker feel of sort of the later movies and the kind of more jovial, bright and happy kind of sense that the first two evoke. Mm-hmm. It does a pretty good job of balancing it, but I feel like at times it's just kind of loses a bit of its identity because it's trying to be two different things at once.
My number 4 is Chamber of Secrets, the big snake one. It's got the whimsy of like the first one, but without having to like discover everything for the first time. It has to kind of develop things further and raise the stakes a little bit. So overall, it's got like little hints at the darkness. It's just like such a solid like follow-up to Philosopher's Stone.
Solid is the best word. We're in the solid territory of our list.
They're so solid.
Everything is like rock
solid as a rock
from here on out. Up to number 3.
Top 3, here we are.
My number 3 is number 1, Philosopher's Stone, the first in the series. It was such a difficult movie, I think, to get right as it does. Yeah. Because the Harry Potter books are obviously so popular and so beloved that any attempt at making films of them was always going to come under such heavy scrutiny.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of expectation out of them. And I think Philosopher's Stone, it does such a good job of just laying the groundwork.
My number 3 is also Philosopher's Stone.
Ooh.
And I totally agree. It's such a great opening to introduce you to this world. It does it perfectly. Like, you're eased in through the eyes of Harry, who is also like discovering all this stuff for the first time.
I think it's the one that leans most heavily into the real fantasy aspect.
It just feels bright. When I remember it in my head, like literally as simple as like color wise, it feels so much brighter than like a lot of the other ones.
Yeah,
and like just visually
it's a feast. My number 2, Chamber of Secrets. Mm-hmm. This is what I think is the second best Harry Potter movie. It's takes all of the concepts, all of the great things from Philosopher's Stone, and just doubles down on them. It includes all of the aspects that we love about the first one, about like the high fantasy and all the quirkiness and the bizarreness of that world, and then just takes it and runs with it in a more kind of high stakes and more action-packed story than the first one. It's so much fun. It's the most fun of the movies, I think.
My number 2 is Prisoner of Azkaban, and I think it's for the reason that you put it further down is my reason for putting it at number 2. I think it bridges the whimsy and wackiness from the first two and the darkness of the rest of the series. I think it's the perfect bridge between them. It's got that edginess to it, and again, visually, it's suddenly like shadowy and dark, and they're in dark environments, but also it's got stuff like the night bus and the time travel sequence. It's got that kind of silliness. They're still kids. It's where it feels like cool.
Which means we've only got one spot left.
Have you guessed what it is yet?
Number 1 is
Goblet of Fire. Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
That's the reason.
That's the reason.
That's the greatest line ever written in cinematic history.
That one scene is the only reason it's number 1.
Goblet of Fire does such a good job of capturing what I think is the most important book in the series.
Yeah, me too.
Being introduced to Voldemort for the first time.
Yeah.
That is the most significant moment throughout the whole series.
It really solidifies this villain that's been teased throughout the first 3. Like, he's there now, physically there. He's not on the back of someone's head. He's not like a projection of his old younger self or whatever.
Yeah, it's done so well to the point that it's like we've already kind of ventured into sort of the darker territory by this point, but that entire graveyard sequence still feels like such a tonal shift, but doesn't feel out of place. That whole sequence is mostly green. The sky around and like the whole setting is like all green, so it's almost like, because green is used throughout the series to represent the evil figures, it's almost like he's thrust into this environment where he's like on his own.
It's the first sort of foray into international wizardry as well. I don't think you get that until Goblet of Fire. It just is like so much fun the whole way through. It's structured with the free like tournament rounds as well. Like I think
as
that's
like almost an indicator of where we're at in the movie. And I think the stuff you like about Prisoner of Azkaban is present here as well. Like the whole sense of adolescence and sort of what they're changing, and they're finally starting to grow up and start becoming like interested in like dating and romance. Like resoundingly our favorite.
Absolutely. But do let us know your rankings. We'd be interested to know.
Leave a comment down below. Tell us how wrong we are. Why we're stupid for putting things where they are. I hope this brings all the Fantastic Beasts fans out of the woodwork to tell us why we're so wrong about hating these movies.
If anyone out there likes any of the Fantastic Beasts films more than any of the Harry Potter films, I really want to know why.
I dare you.
And what makes
dare
you think
to
that?
tell me.
Thank you for watching HAZMAT ranking the Wizarding World series.
If you enjoyed watching us do this and would like to see us do more stuff like this in the future, then you can support the channel by hitting subscribe. You can hit the notification bell to be alerted to our more recent uploads. And as always, all of our socials will be listed down in the description.
And join us next time where we write these rankings down on a huge banner and we tie it to the Civic Center.
Oh, I thought we were going to put it in a great big goblet of fire. Did you put your rankings in the goblet of fire?